Happy Monday, everyone. This is Martha with Nature Niche. And this week I'm wrapping up with my fourth installment of NestBox Basics and wanted to talk to you about proper monitoring and how you can participate in Project NestWatch. So we've talked about, what makes a good nest box, where to locate it, and how to protect it from predators, and what you can do or not do under the Migratory Bird Treaty Act about dealing with native nest competitors and managing for invasive species. So monitoring your nest box is really important to that idea of, putting these out as habitat. We need to first do no harm and make sure that they are functioning properly. And you want to monitor for problems like invasive species occupying the boxes, if there's parasites, damage to the box for multiple reasons, perhaps that can be repaired, and looking for and removing failed nests. So I covered the basics of monitoring in detail, so you can check out Monday with Martha number 10. With this post, I really want to talk to you about Cornell Lab of Ornithology's NestWatch program. Project NestWatch is a citizen science program that's organized by the Cornell Lab of Ornithology. And this monitoring program is specifically designed to track the status and trends in bird reproductive biology by recording when nesting occurs, the number of eggs that are laid, how many actually hatch, and how many hatchlings survive to fledge. The info on breeding bird populations that you're providing by participating in NestWatch helps scientists kind of understand what's going on, how bird populations might be changing over time as a result of climate change and habitat degradation and loss, expansion of urban areas with development, and introductions of non-native plants and animals. So this is the NestWatch homepage. There's a lot of great information here. A link to the All About Birdhouses website, which I've featured in the last 3 posts. Lots of great information there. Some information on nest and egg ID, just the very basics. And this is where you'd go to sort of get your bearings and get started with NestWatch. So if you click Let's Start Monitoring Nests, you get to the next page I want to show you. So here is the How to NestWatch part of the program website. And before you get started, it's really important that you read this code of conduct. And then I would say right after doing that, go ahead, down at the bottom, there's a link to take the quiz and become a certified nest watcher. So to formally participate in the program, you need to pass that quiz. I promise it's not that bad, and it's a great way to be part of a larger citizen science program. So it's important that we make observations of the nest boxes that we've installed, but we need to remember to be very careful and responsible about how we do it. So I would say even if you don't plan to participate in NestWatch, this is just a great set of ethics to abide by and methodology laid out in their nest monitoring manual to help you do that, to be careful and responsible, even if you're not officially going to submit data. So there are three main things that we want to make sure we avoid as we're monitoring our nest boxes. We want to make sure we avoid accidental harm to the nest and its contents. We want to make sure we're not causing parental desertion of the nest, and that we're not attracting predators to the nest. And I should clarify, Project NestWatch, it doesn't have to be a nest box. It can be any other bird nest that you find and want to make observations of. So you want to make sure you plan, prepare, and then monitor. They recommend every 3 to 4 days, although even if you can just get out to observe the nest once a week, that still provides valuable data. Usually successful songbird nest attempts take 30 days to complete, so you want to plan on monitoring the nest about 5 to 10 times. And it's important to prepare your data sheets, or if you're going to use their mobile phone app, make sure you've read the monitoring protocol all ahead of time. And that's to minimize the time you spend at the nest. You want to try to keep that to less than 1 minute. And then you want to make sure you're collecting detailed and accurate data and understand their methodology. And you also want to make sure that you're visiting the nest at the most appropriate time. So there's some things that you want to avoid, like visiting it early in the morning when it might be cold. You don't really want the eggs or nestlings left alone early in the morning. You want to avoid nests during the first few days of incubation. Again, that's a pretty critical period. So you want that female to stay on the nest during that time and not spook her away. You don't want to approach nests when the young are close to fledging. You don't want to, have them jump out prematurely, because once they're out, it's very hard to put them back and keep them back in. So avoid monitoring during that critical period. And then avoid checking on nests during bad weather. Again, if it's icky, you want the parent birds to be on that nest. And then you don't want to check nests at or after dusk, because this is often when the female might return to the nest at night. The exception are owls that are nocturnal. Then checking at dusk or late when they are not on the box is okay. So you want to search carefully and make sure you're not accidentally disturbing nests, especially say you're looking for ground nests. Our grassland bird species nest on the ground. So you need to be careful that you're not stepping on nests, or maybe you're in shrubby habitat looking for birds that place their nests in shrubs. You want to be careful about how you're moving through the site, making sure you're not dislodging nests, eggs, nestlings as you move through the site. And you also want to make sure that you aren't, predators aren't following you. So domestic cats, make sure crows and jays aren't watching and following you. They're very smart, and you wouldn't want to inadvertently lead a predator to a nest site. You also want to minimize disturbance at the nest. So look for the parents as you approach, and you can wait until they leave the nest, or you can make noise as you approach and give those adults time to slip away. So you don't want to walk directly up to the front of the box in a quick manner. And you don't want to handle the birds or the eggs. You need proper permitting to do that. So with the NestWatch monitoring, you don't want to handle those. You don't want to leave a dead end trail. So this is something we talked about for those who attended the in-person Bluebird Nest Box workshop we held at the store last weekend. So you want to, walk up to the box, check it quickly, less than a minute, and then leave in a different direction. You don't want to have this dead end trail, which might attract the interest of predators and increase the chances of predation on that box. And you want to make sure you're respecting private landowner rights, you're not trespassing. If you do have permission, that you're following any specific instructions the landowners have given you. And you want to make sure you're abiding by the Migratory Bird Treaty Act and not impacting our native songbirds' active nests, eggs, nestlings, or the adult birds. So I also wanted to show you their nest monitoring manual. This is a great document. It's a PDF that you can download if you'd rather print and share or read that way. And it has just a lot of great information in it. So you can see from the table of contents here, lots of things. I would read this as a preparation before you start looking for and monitoring nests. It covers their protocol for monitoring and their data sheets. I did want to show you this 1 month rule on page 7 here. So it's important that we're not too hasty when we're monitoring to assume that a nest is abandoned. As songbirds lay eggs, they might not start incubating them right away, and the eggs remain viable, for up to 2 weeks after being laid. So as a general rule, you really, as you're monitoring your nests or nest boxes, you should wait at least 1 month after you expect the eggs to hatch before concluding that a particular nest has been abandoned. I also wanted to show you the protocol on page 10. So this is where they outline, you find a nest, you need to remember where it's located, and then on their website create a nest site for that particular location, and then monitor every 3-4 days as you can, and then you do one last visit just to document if there are any unhatched eggs or dead young remaining in the nest, and you record your observations and enter your data. And you can do that online or through their mobile app, and you want to enter just a summary of information. So there are directions there for doing that, but they have just really great information on how do you, for that summary at the end, kind of estimate if you didn't catch it, when was the first egg laid, when did the first egg hatch, what day did they fledge. You don't always know those things, but there's good guidance here on trying to figure that out. And they have a completed nest check data sheet. So this will be what you're doing. This is on page 14. You can print these and fill them out by hand and then enter on the computer or use the mobile app to complete. But it shows you that, for each nest or nest box, for each attempt, you're going to want to keep one of these data sheets and name the species, provide information about the characteristics of the box and the surrounding habitat, and then record for each monitoring event. How many eggs do you observe? How many live young or dead young? What's the status of the nest? Is it partially built or completely built? What are the adults doing? Did they stay in the vicinity? Did the female remain on the nest, and so you couldn't tell if there were, how many eggs or live young there were? And you can also make notes on, did you do any management activity at the box? Cowbird activity, any parasitism by cowbirds, you can record there, and there's a place to add notes. Another part of the website I wanted to show you was the scientific impact. You can get year-end reports to see how your your observations have contributed to an overall assessment of how our nesting birds are doing. I thought this NestWatch map room was really cool too. And here you can search by species and by year. So if you're just cleaning out, for example, your eastern bluebird boxes and you want a better sense of, I saw them, there they are, like where are they in their nesting timing this year, I can search by eastern bluebird here, and I can see, nobody's really reporting active nests yet into Michigan, but boy, are we getting close. So I think this is a handy tool and a fun thing to explore. So to get started with adding a nest site, under your data, you can add a new nest site. Here's what it looks like. And you can either type in an address for the nest location or the rough lat long and navigate and drop a place marker for your nest location. And I'll go back here. So here's my backyard bluebird box, and I thought it might be neat to show you some of my data for last year. I had a brood of bluebirds. So you can click on here and add a nest attempt and enter your data. That way you could add the box to a group of nest sites if you have multiple boxes up on your property. And then as far as entering data goes, it's pretty straightforward. You have to pick the species that you observed nesting. It's very nice. They give you some incubation period and brooding period days for that particular species. And then you have to answer some questions about, do you have and what type of predator guard on the nest box. You have to say, like, what is the nest on, what's the substrate. In my case, it was a bluebird nest box. And then they ask some questions about whether you were providing supplemental food or not. And I feed my bluebirds many things pretty much year round. So I answered those, and that filled up this portion. And then for each nest attempt or like brood attempt, you then fill out the days of observation. And so you can see here, mine, I had house sparrows staking out the box, so I pulled it down for a week or so, strung it up with fishing line monofilament to help spook away and deter the invasive house sparrows. Put it up mid-May, and by the end of May, I observed the adults going in and out of the box, in particular the female, and so I looked, and while I didn't see any eggs or young, the nest was completely made. And you can enter photos. So there's a photo of what I observed on that first monitoring event. And then pretty busy there at the end of May with our native plant sale, but I came back on June 10th, and the female sat tight. So I couldn't tell, and I just closed the box right away. Didn't want to disturb her. She was obviously incubating. So I couldn't tell what was going on as far as number of eggs or young, but and I marked that she remained on the nest. And then came back 3 days later and found 4 bluebird eggs. So that was very exciting. So I documented that here, no live or dead young at this point, just the 4 eggs. Came back towards the end of June and observed. I was surprised. I probably should have done one more monitoring in between there, but found some adorable baby bluebirds in the box that were mostly feathered, maybe not quite completely yet. So documented the 4 live young. They were partially feathered, and then they were so far along, I was a little nervous to monitor again and maybe fledge them early. And so I waited until I didn't hear noises in the box anymore. I checked again in early July, documented that there were no unhatched eggs, no more live or dead young in the nest, that they had fledged, and then I documented that I pulled the nest out. So here's what it looked like when they were gone. The nest is all compacted. Lots of the adults kind of give up, and then there's poop everywhere in the box. It can get pretty messy. And then I pulled the nest out, took a picture, and then pulled it away from the nest location and just distributed the materials. It's against the Migratory Bird Treaty Act to hang on to songbird nests. But so yeah, that's what my monitoring looked like last year. Wasn't too hard to add this information. Just noted that all 4 eggs hatched and all 4 young fledged. Tried estimating the dates because I didn't monitor as frequently as I could have. That was a little harder, but I used that monitoring manual to help with that, and yeah, just noted my kind of battles with the house sparrows, but that we were successful in getting a pair of bluebirds in there and 4 young fledged. Hope that this post helps you feel more confident about how to responsibly monitor and contribute your observations to NestWatch. And I think that together we can be wonderful Nestbox landlords. I really hope that this mini series, the Nestbox Basics, has helped you with that. And I think we can help our native cavity nesting songbirds reproduce successfully. And I hope you get to be a part of that, enjoy their company and the baby bird antics, both around the nest boxes and at your feeders perhaps. And share our observations as citizen scientists and help inform cavity nesting bird species conservation decisions in the future. Take care. Have a good week.